Tonight on the docket, a libertarian hero, a champion of the Constitution, and a stalwart of limited government. He wants to bring the troops home now and end America's involvement in 5 bloody, expensive, and immoral wars across the globe. He wants an end to the biggest Ponzi schemes in human history, also known as Social Security and Medicare. He wants to repeal Obamacare and get the government out of the healthcare business entirely. He wants the government to live within its means and not borrow one more penny to pay back its bills. He's sick and tired of all the money printed and perpetrated by the Federal Reserve that's literally stealing money right out of your bank account. And he wants to end the Fed. And if this champion of personal freedom were able to persuade Congress and the American people of the virtues of limited government, and that it's the only moral and practical solution for a free people and a free society, guess what your income tax bill would be? 0. And with the added bonus that your children won't be on the hook to pay for unconstitutional and unconscionable government welfare and warfare programs that took place long before they were born. Sounds like a great campaign platform to me. And that's why it's great news to hear that he's formed an exploratory committee to run for the Republican nomination for president in 2012. George Washington once said that liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. Our first guest tonight is living proof of that. Here now, Texas Republican Congressman. Who else could I be introducing this way but Ron Paul? Congressman Paul, it's a pleasure. Welcome here.
Thank you, Judge. Good to be here.
How bad are things in America today?
Very bad. Probably worse than they have been maybe ever. Even though you can look at wartime, Civil War and World War II, very bad. I think financially, we're facing a situation where the foundations were more eroded than ever before because we came out of the Depression, we came out of the war. But today, it's going to be a lot riskier trying to come out of the mess that we are in the middle of right now because we're on the verge of destroying our dollar, and that's a big, big issue.
How did we get there? How did it happen that parties that were supposed to check and balance each other agree on all of these big government, unsound money, we don't need gold, we can print all the cash we want issues, and only now have some of them come to realize the problems that they've caused us, the pit into which they have put us?
I think they thought there was a free lunch, that you could do it, and we were so wealthy that we could get away that for a long time. So people who were in need would go to the politician, and the politician would win votes by saying we can take care of you, and the system tolerated it. But then we became a nation that was concentrating on the material benefits of a free society and forgot about the free society. And we finally got to this point where through the monetary system and the financial system that we had, where we literally exported our productive capacity. So we don't produce anymore, and we depend on debt and borrowing and the fact that we have the reserve currency of the world. So we need more concentration on the principles of liberty and less narrow concentration on the benefits. Yes, the benefits are good, and we want those benefits, but if you concentrate only on the benefits and not on the principles, you'll lose it.
Earlier today in Iowa, you announced the formation of an exploratory committee to, I guess, sort of take the pulse of the voters to see if there is enough support for you to put your hat in the ring to seek the Republican nomination for president. I think you will seek the nomination, and I think you'll make an unbelievable run of it. So forgive me if I'm being a little presumptuous in this question. Why do you want to be president of the United States?
Well, it's a pretty good question because there are days when I'm not sure that's exactly what I want in my life. Because I've said seriously, even though it might sound a little bit different than the others, actually I want to be president, not for the things I want to do, for the things I don't think we should do. Because I don't want to be a president that continues the policing of the world. I don't want to be a president that wants to run your life. And I don't want to be a president that's in charge of the economy. So in a way, it's a negative reason to be president, and that is to influence the society to accept responsibility and show that a president and the executive branch of government shouldn't be king. We don't need a president that is king, and I think that's my main goal, is to show that liberty works and big government doesn't, so therefore I would want to have less power, not more power.
The Constitution says that only the Congress can declare war. But presidents, not just this president, virtually all of his predecessors, at least in the post-World War II era, have acted as if they are kings or maybe princes by taking military into harm's way without seeking the permission of the Congress. How bad is that? How wrong is that for contemporary peoples and for the future when the Congress lets the president get away with that?
Yeah, and I like the way you put it. Why does the Congress let them do that? How did we get here? Why did we give up, the Congress give up their prerogatives, their responsibilities? That probably would baffle the founders, because I think they on purposely designed a system where the Congress would be superior to the other branches, yet now we're the most inferior branch. Government's going to continue, with us, without us, even if we're not there. So it is astounding, but it's just carelessness. But in a way, indirectly, it's with the people, too. The people tolerate the congressmen who ignore the Constitution, right, and just let things go by. So we have drifted a long way away from the intent of the Congress to an intent of the Constitution to make Congress supreme in declaring when we send young people off to die. And this is both a big geopolitical event, but it's also a big financial event when we allow presidents to do this.
I want to go through some specific issues, Congressman Paul, on which you've expressed an opinion with which our viewers may be familiar or may not be familiar. Issues that I think people would want to know where you stand as you seek the Republican nomination for the presidency. Same issues that I've asked others with whom I think you will soon be competing. And if your answers were short, we could get through almost all of these, because time in this business is always limited. Abortion.
I am pro-life. I think the federal government should be out of it, and when it becomes very, very complicated, it should be handled by state law.
Abolishing certain departments of the federal government, like housing and urban development, energy, agriculture, commerce. Do we need all of that?
No, we don't. That's part of the problem, why we're in a bankruptcy. So we shouldn't have those. We could get rid of 6 or 8, and I think the country and the world would be better off, and we would be a wealthy nation for it.
Does the federal government have any constitutional or moral role in education?
The Constitution prohibits and does not give permission to the federal government to be involved, but puts no prohibitions against local governments to be involved. And it might be a mistake even to the local level, but that's a different issue. At the federal level, the federal government should not be involved in education in any way.
What is your view of the concept of America as an empire? Stated differently, do we need 900 permanent military, I almost can't say this with a straight face, permanent military installations around the world for which the taxpayers are paying and on which American personnel are physically present?
Yeah, I've been told we need that to protect our interests.
Right.
We have a lot of interest on. No, we don't need any of those. We need to bring them home. But people, the follow-up accusation is always, oh, you're an isolationist. No, not if you believe in free trade and generous free travel and these sorts of things, that you are not an isolationist because you want to bring the troops home.
How would free trade enhance our relations with other countries as opposed to what President Bush used to call nation building?
Well, the free trade, and the founders talked about this. They believed that if you traded with people, you were less likely to fight with them. And I think a good example would be Vietnam. We fought for 20 years. The French and Americans lost a lot of lives. And then all of a sudden we lose, we come home, and now we trade with them. And we don't think about killing the Vietnamese. China right now, hopefully it continues, since we've opened up trade and commerce with China, we're both better off. So I think it's a very good example. And I think dictators are undermined by having access to our goods and services. And they're more likely to fail if we did have free trade.
Certainly, that's the lesson of the collapse of the Soviet Union. A couple of more specifics. Gay marriage. Does the federal government or the President of the United States have any role to play in that?
No, they should not. As a matter of fact, in my book, I do talk about marriage. I consider marriage very, very important. But I think the state should be out of it. And I would urge all states, I would think all governments should be out of the business of dictating what the definition of marriage is. And that doesn't mean I have to endorse somebody else's opinion, but I shouldn't have others impose their views on me, and I won't impose my views on them. So I think the federal government at least should be out of the business, as well as all state governments.
Guantanamo Bay, should we have a prison camp there? Should people be tried there? Or should we not have the prison camp there? And should people who've harmed us be tried in the ordinary courts for breaking the laws that they apparently have broken.
Our law and international law still says terrorism is a crime. It's not an act of war. We're not in a true war. And so we shouldn't have military tribunals or secret military prisons where people are tortured and all kinds of things. We shouldn't have those. I mean, the attempted bombing of the towers early in the 90s, we tried those individuals and put them away. I understand there's over 300 people have been tried in our courts who have been associated with terrorism.
Yes.
Why give up our sacred privilege of being tried fairly in a court? That people ought to think about, is this the way I want to be treated if somebody charges me with a crime? No, we shouldn't have courts and prisons in Guantanamo done in secret.
What should we do about the Patriot Act?
Repeal it. Get rid of the Patriot Act. It undermines and destroys the Fourth Amendment.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, now Libya. So should we have troops there?
No, I'd just come home. That's one thing a president could do. He has control. He has authority on the troops. So a president can maneuver the troops. And I guess that's how Obama and other presidents just say, well, we'll move the troops in, as he has, perpetuated our involvement in Libya. So no, we should come home.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's right in the Constitution. But so many local and state governments and even the federal government have done everything they can to interfere with that. Where do you stand on the rights of competent adults to keep and bear arms?
In one way, all we should have needed would be a right to own property. And a gun or a knife is property, and you should be able to own it. I don't think for a minute the founders ever thought that if you went across a state line, you had to take your shotgun out of your horse and buggy when you're out of your wagon. No, I think they thought it was very, very important, and they had a special reason for you to be armed, and it wasn't for shooting rabbits. And therefore, I think the Second Amendment protects everybody's right, as long as they're not causing a crime with it, to own a rifle. I'd like to see more gun control on the federal agents. There's 100,000 of them carry guns, enforcing government regulations on us. That's where I think there's an abuse of guns.
Congressman Paul, it's a pleasure. Good luck with this venture that you begin today, and thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.